Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. So welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about what happened to 26-year-old Adriane Insogna and Leslie Mazzara. This case happened on Halloween night in 2004 and it's truly so terrifying and shocking. Home invasions are so frightening. Your home is where you should feel safety and comfort, so home invasions are just truly terrifying. This video is going to be intense, so just putting a quick warning out there. In memory of Adriane and Leslie, I will be making a donation to the Calvary Home for Children in South Carolina. They are a nonprofit organization that provides help, hope, and homes to abused and neglected children. It's an organization that Adriane and Leslie's families have chosen if people would like to help out and make a donation in their memory. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Thank you all so much for being here and for listening to Adriane and Leslie's story. I truly appreciate all the love and support that you guys show this channel. Please don't forget to subscribe before you guys leave. And with that, let's jump right into today's video. Today's case takes place in Napa Valley, California. Now, when I think of Napa Valley, I think of wine, I think of cheese boards, beautiful scenery, gorgeous weather, and honestly, safety. I see it as a safe place where people go to relax, unwind, retire, and just have a good, high-quality life. It's an expensive area to live in, but I always saw it as a good place to go and raise your children. Before the year 2004, crime was not a common occurrence. In fact, there hadn't been a homicide in over 2 years. So everyone always felt very safe in Napa Valley. However, all of that would change on Halloween night in 2004. So for today's case, we're going to be focusing on 3 girls: 26-year-old Adriane Insogna, 26-year-old Leslie Mazzara, and 27-year-old Lauren Mianza. I know the names sound somewhat similar, so I hope you guys don't get confused, and I hope that I can explain this case as clear as possible. Adriane Insogna grew up in Napa Valley and is described as a very mellow person. She was always calm, she was a good friend, and she was very smart.
Adriane was one of my best friends. She never ever turned us down. If we needed something, her family or friends, we were always first. We always knew that. She was a great person.
Unfortunately, when she was 16 years old, she was in a near fatal car crash. The car had rolled 3 times, and since her window was open, she had hit her head on the pavement numerous times. She survived this horrific crash, but she did have very severe injuries. I believe she had to get surgery on her face, and she did have some memory loss. But overall, with time, she was able to make a full physical recovery. Within a few months of the accident, she was back in school and trying to live a normal life. She even played a couple of sports. I believe she played volleyball and softball. So she was just trying to move on with her life, and she is just such a strong person. Now, this organization called If Given a Chance came across Adriane's story and decided to provide her with a full scholarship to any college. So Adriane enrolled herself in Cal Polytech University and she pursued her dream of becoming an engineer. Afterwards, she landed a job as a civil engineer with the Napa Sanitation Department, and life was good. She was having a wonderful time at this new job. She had a great group of friends, and she had recently celebrated the 10-year anniversary since her accident. One of her best friends and co-workers at the time, Lily Prudhomme, took Adriane to an amusement park to celebrate how her life had been since the accident. You know, since the accident, she had accomplished so much and was finally living her dream of being a civil engineer. So there was a lot to celebrate. Now, as for Adriane's dating life, she had been seeing a man named Christian Lee. From interviews I've seen and statements I've read, their relationship was not the best. They were somewhat on again and off again, and the reason that they had so many arguments was because Adriane was ready for a commitment. She was ready for the relationship to take the next step, but Christian wasn't there yet, which of course led to a lot of arguments, but thankfully Adriane had her best friend Lily to help her out. At one point, Lily and Adriane were living together, but Lily had been dating this man named Copple, and they had decided to move in together as a couple. So of course, Adriane Adriane wanted to give them their space and she decided to move out. She actually moved in with another friend named Lauren Mianza, and they decided to get a 2-story house on the west side of town on Dorset Street. When move-in day came around, a couple of their friends came over to help them out, and the girls loved living there, especially Adriane. She had been looking forward to living in that house for a long time, and she just felt really at home there. So at first, it was just Lauren and Adriane living in that house, but in June of 2004, they decided to invite a third girl to come live with them. And this girl was 26-year-old Leslie Mazzara. Leslie is described as having a warm energy. She was friendly and there was just a spark about her. She was from a rural town in South Carolina and her best friend Kelly says that Leslie was amazing. The two of them grew up together and Kelly was a pageant queen. So anytime Leslie would come to her house, she would put Kelly's crowns on her head, and one day Leslie asked her if she could have one of her crowns. And Kelly said, "No, go get your own." Obviously in a friendly and encouraging way. So that's what Leslie did. She signed up for her first beauty pageant and she ended up winning the title of Miss Williamston. She then went on to compete in the Miss South Carolina pageant, and as part of her campaign, she raised money for the Calvary Home for Children, which is the organization I mentioned at the start. Now, this wasn't something that she planned on doing for the rest of her life, but she did feel very happy and proud of herself for accomplishing this. She had always wanted to win a crown, and now she had one. But it was time to figure out what she wanted to do next in her life. When Leslie was a little girl, she used to tell her mom that she wanted to be a teacher, a nurse, a mother, and Miss America all before she was 21 years old. So she had a lot of ambitions, but for now, she was somewhat stuck on what to do. Her mother, Kathy, was living in California at the time, so she told Leslie, "Listen, why don't you come to California for the summer, take a break from life and just come here to relax and figure things out." Leslie loved that idea, so she packed her bags and headed over to California. She ended up getting a job working as a host at the Francis Ford Coppola Winery, which, side note, he is the director of the movie The Godfather. Leslie was so excited to work at this winery, and from the moment she arrived in Napa Valley, she loved it. What began as a summer job turned into a passion. Leslie loved everything about California and decided that she wanted to make the wine business her career. Her mother, Kathy, eventually left California and moved to Michigan, but Leslie decided to stay behind. She wanted to make Napa Valley her new home. Since she was new to town and she was just an overall very social person, she quickly made friends and was meeting new people left and right. So when Adriane and Lauren invited Leslie to come move in with them, she was so excited about this. The house was in a very safe and comfortable neighborhood, and the three girls got along very well. Fast forward to Halloween night in 2004. The three roommates, Adriane, Leslie, and Lauren, had spent the evening passing out candy to trick-or-treaters. After passing out some candy, Adriane decided to leave the house and go visit her boyfriend Christian, who lived just a couple of blocks away. By 10 p.m., she was back at the house, and all three girls were just hanging out. They were in the living room, watching TV, and just winding down. As the girls were hanging out, Lauren ended up getting a phone call, so she walked over to her room, which was on the first floor, and she took the phone call there. As she was in her bedroom, she heard Leslie and Adriane walk upstairs to their own separate bedrooms, and she heard Adriane say goodnight. Then, by 11 p.m., all the doors in the house were locked, and all three girls were sound asleep. Somewhere between 1:30 a.m. and 2 a.m., Lauren was woken up when she heard her dog growling, and she also saw that one of the security lights in the garage had gone off. Lauren figured that maybe one of Adriane's cats had tipped off the light, so she sort of dismissed it and she quieted her dog down and tried to go back to sleep. However, within a few minutes, she was woken up when she heard a blood-curdling scream. She jumped out of bed and just stood there for a second, trying to figure out what was going on. She then quietly and slowly opened her bedroom door and stood in the doorway to listen. That's when she heard Adriane screaming, "Oh my God, please help me." And before Lauren could move, she heard the intruder running down the stairs. Lauren said that this person was running down so fast that it looked like he was flying down the stairs, and he was also breaking things along the way. Something in her gut told her to run and go out the back door. But of course, she was freaking out and she didn't know what to do. She said, "If I run out the back, I'm opening up the door for this guy to follow me out." But again, her gut was telling her to run, so that's what she did.
My gut told me to go out the back And I just remember thinking, I'm opening up the door for this guy to follow me out.
She made her way to the back door, ran outside, and just hid there waiting to see what happened next. She didn't know if the intruder was still inside the house. She didn't know if there was a second intruder. I mean, she didn't know anything. She was just hiding in the backyard, just hoping that he would go away. Lauren could hear the intruder struggling with the living room blinds, and then it all got quiet. She could no longer hear the intruder. All she could hear now were Adriane's pleas for help. Without knowing if the intruder was truly gone or if another person was still inside the house, Lauren decided to run inside and go help her friends.
And then I heard the screamings and cries for help. I had no idea what I was going to find.
She tried to call 911 using the house phone, but for some reason the line was dead. So she continued making her way upstairs, and when she walked into Adriane's bedroom, she was met with a horrifying sight. The entire bedroom was covered in blood. Leslie was lying face down on a pile of clothes, and a few feet away, Adriane was crouched behind her bed, still alive, but bleeding heavily. Lauren asked her if she was okay, and Adriane said no and asked her to call for help. So Lauren sped out of the bedroom, almost slipping on the blood on the floor. She made her way to her bedroom, grabbed her cell phone, and called 911. Now again, for some reason, this phone call wasn't working. I believe there was some type of miscommunication with the operator. Even though Lauren was trying to get in contact with 911, she was still scared that the intruder was either still in the house, maybe he was still nearby and was gonna come back to the house. I mean, she didn't know what was gonna happen next, so she decided to get in her car, drive away, and call 911 again. Thankfully, this call was able to go through and paramedics quickly arrived to the scene.
This is 911 emergency. What are you reporting?
Oh my God, we got attacked. Does someone need an ambulance? Yes, oh my God, I just died. I don't know what is going on. There's blood everywhere.
But unfortunately, it was too late. Adriane and Leslie were stabbed numerous times and were both pronounced dead. Police asked Lauren if she had seen the intruder's face or if she had known who had done this, but she didn't. She said she never got a good look at his face. Police combed through the house, collecting over 200 items of potential evidence. As they were going through the scene, they came across a couple of cigarette butts outside of the house. Neither Lauren, Leslie, or Adriane smoked, so police believe that these cigarettes belonged to the killer. The cigarettes had been smoked down to the filter, so whoever was smoking this had been waiting outside the house for some time. Police say that this person could have been nervous and they were kind of debating on whether to go inside and do this or to leave. That's why they had smoked so many cigarettes, because they were so nervous about what they were about to do. Or the person could have just been waiting there for some time, waiting for the girls to go to bed and figuring out their plan for what they were going to do when they went inside. Either way, police 100% believe that these cigarette butts belonged to the killer. The cigarette brand was Camel Turkish Gold, but police decided to hold off on revealing this information to the public. In the meantime, they sent the cigarettes to a crime lab to collect any DNA evidence on it. Besides the cigarettes, police also found blood at the crime scene. The intruder had cut himself on the window blind, so police collected the blood and sent it off to a lab to see if the DNA from the blood matched the DNA on the cigarettes. Lastly, police found zip ties on the floor near the living room window. So this means that the intruder came prepared. They targeted this house on purpose. They came with these zip ties to do who knows what, and this just wasn't a random attack. Police believe that the zip ties fell out of the man's pocket, and when he was making his way out, he forgot to pick them up. Police did make a formal statement to the press about what happened to Adriane and Leslie, and they asked the public to keep an eye out for someone with recent cuts or for someone who exhibited unusual behavior. The town of Napa Valley was just heartbroken by what had happened to these two girls. As I mentioned at the start, there hadn't been a murder in the city in over 2 years. So everyone was really shocked and people were scared, especially because the killer was still on the loose. People were on edge, they were scared to be home, and of course when people are scared and things like this happen, crazy rumors start to spread.
Because the killer seemed to know where he was going and who he was after, investigators quickly concluded this was not a random attack. The police released very little information, but it didn't matter. The guessing game had begun.
Which honestly I despise. I think it's terrible to make up theories and rumors about why someone was killed. And I get that people are curious, but I think making such crazy and outrageous rumors and theories about this is really harmful to the victims and to their families. I mean, imagine having to deal with the death of your loved one, and on top of that, having to deal with people making up crazy rumors about why your loved one was killed. People were saying that maybe Leslie and Adriane were mixed up with drugs and this was a drug deal gone bad. Another rumor was that Leslie was the main target. A lot of people believed that because Francis Ford Coppola had made a movie about a mob, that he was actually in the mob, so that maybe Leslie was involved in that since she was working for him at the winery, and maybe someone was trying to get revenge on him and decided to take it out on Leslie. I mean, honestly, the rumors were just getting out of control.
The kinds of rumors right away were, number one, that Leslie was the target and that Adriane had come to her aid.
The families of Adriane and Leslie felt like they had to keep defending their daughters. Everyone was making these crazy accusations against them, and it was just hard for the families to have to continuously defend their daughters. Now, when Adriane and Leslie's families heard the news, they were of course completely heartbroken. Adriane's mother, Arlene, said that when she first heard that her daughter was killed, she completely lost it. At the time, she was all the way in Australia, so imagine being in another country and hearing that news. It was terrible. She couldn't believe that her beautiful daughter was gone. As for Leslie's family, her mother Kathy was in Michigan at the time and said, "I just have a broken heart. It's hard for me to understand how anybody could get to the point of rage that they would murder these two young women, my beautiful daughter." A few days after the murders, there was a memorial service and candlelight vigil held for the girls. This vigil was organized by friends and families of the girls, and everyone was crying and so emotional. Adriane's best friend Lily was heartbroken. She said that she and Adriane had planned to go to Australia on November 25th and climb Sydney's Harbour Bridge. She said that Adriane was so excited about it and had told her that once she climbed that bridge, she could die a happy woman. It's sad that Adriane never got to go there, but Lily said that she planned on going to Australia, climbing the bridge in memory of her best friend. So many people had attended these vigils and funerals, including Lily, including her boyfriend Eric, and even Lauren was there, the one survivor of this tragic incident. And I believe Lauren was even escorted by security guards because she still feared for her life. The killer was still out there and she was scared he was going to come after her because she was the only witness. So I can't imagine how she was feeling at this time. I just think about her and I'm like, wow. She ran back inside the house to help her roommates and she didn't even know if the intruder was still there or, if something else was going on. She just wanted to help her best friends, and I just honestly think she is so brave. It's crazy because a lot of people criticize Lauren. A lot of people think that it's wrong that she ran outside in the first place and that eventually she drove away. People believe that she should have fought off the intruder, which I think is crazy. I mean, put yourself in her shoes. Imagine you wake up in the middle of the night, you hear your roommates get brutally attacked, you see an intruder running around your house. I mean, would you really try to fight the intruder off yourself? I don't think a lot of people would try to fight off the intruder, and honestly, her gut instinct told her to run, so that's what she did. And she could have continued to hide outside. She could have ran to a neighbor's house to try to get help, but no, she was brave enough to go back inside that house to help out her roommates. So again, she is truly an amazing and brave person, and my heart goes out to her. Going back to the investigation, police were vigorously searching for the killer. At the memorial services held for the girls, police went around asking the newspaper photographers for their business cards so that they could contact them later and look through all the photos and videos from the event just to see if maybe one of them had captured the killer on camera. Sometimes killers like to inject themselves into the investigations, and sometimes they are just so cruel that they will even attend the vigils and funerals for the victims. So police went through all of the photos and videos that people took at these events, but no one really stood out to them. From what I've read, police believe that Leslie was the intended target. The evidence indicated that she had been sleeping when she was first stabbed and had attempted to run away from the intruder. She headed to Adriane's room, which woke her up, and then Adriane tried to defend Leslie. The reason police believe that Leslie was the intended target is because of her social life. When police started doing background checks into Adriane and Leslie, they realized that Leslie had a very social life. She had a big circle of friends, and she had also been in the dating field. She was a single girl, she was new in town, and she wanted to date and meet new people. One of Leslie's friends, Amy, said that she had met a lot of Leslie's dates, but that none of them seemed like a killer. However, in the eyes of the police, they figured that whoever had committed this crime might have been a person that was obsessed with Leslie and was upset because she had ended things. Police started investigating any man that Leslie had gone on a date with, and they started off by investigating a man named Brian. Brian was Leslie's boyfriend from college, and just within a few months of them dating, he had bought her a brand new car. A lot of people found that weird because they had only been dating for a few months and he had already bought her a brand new car. I'm not really sure why their relationship ended, but it did. His behavior after the breakup is what really concerned police, because they discovered that after they had broken up, he had created a website dedicated to Leslie. This obviously was a red flag for the police, so they spoke to him, they questioned him, and ultimately they cleared him. The next man they looked into was a man named William. William was a lawyer that Leslie had been living with before she moved to Napa Valley. Leslie really liked him, but his father just made her uncomfortable. When they were living together, the dad would often call the house, and it wasn't so that he could speak to his son. It was so that he could speak to Leslie. I feel like that is weird, so this definitely made Leslie feel uncomfortable, and it got to the point where she would just stop answering her phone. In fact, when police checked the phone records for the night that Leslie died, they discovered that this man had called Leslie that night. So of course, police wanted to talk to him, and a couple of detectives flew to South Carolina and spoke to William and his dad. William's dad denied any involvement in the murders, and he also denied that he was obsessed with Leslie. He insisted that the call that he made on Halloween night was just a coincidence, and he even voluntarily gave up his DNA. Police took their DNA, they conducted the test, and both of them came back as negative. And this routine continued. Police kept digging into any men involved in Leslie's life. They took DNA samples from them, but everyone came back as negative. And I 100% understand that police need to investigate every avenue. So of course they need to investigate every person that was involved in the girl's life. People were just making such bad rumors about Leslie and basically saying like, oh yeah, because she went on so many dates with so many guys, that's the reason why her and Adriane were killed. These type of statements really hurt Leslie's family, especially her mother. Kathy felt like she always had to defend her daughter against these crazy rumors, so I just felt really bad for them. After police finished digging into Leslie's history, police began to focus in on Adriane, specifically on her boyfriend Christian. Adriane had gone to his house a few hours before the murders, and they were in a rocky relationship. They had been arguing that night, so police believed that maybe he had a motive to do this. Police went to his house, they took samples of his blood, they took his clothes, they took the sheets off his bed, and they also collected a knife that he had in the corner of his room. They brought him down to the station to question him, but in the end, all of the DNA tests came back as negative and Christian was cleared. Overall, police interviewed over 1,500 people, they obtained over 200 DNA samples, and they followed as many leads as possible. The lack of movement and suspects in the case was really frustrating for Adriane and Leslie's families. They felt that the case was going nowhere, they felt scared, and of course Lauren also felt scared because the killer was still out there, so she was still worried for her safety every single day. Everyone involved, including the community of Napa Valley, just wanted this case to be over with. They wanted the killer to be caught, and they wanted to feel safe again. Leslie's mother, Kathy, says that she felt haunted by this. She said that she would wake up with these terrible images in her mind about her daughter's death, and it was just horrible. She didn't want to know the specific details about how her daughter was killed, but she knew that it was brutal, and it hurt her to think about that. As for Adriane's mother, Arlene, she was just as frustrated and heartbroken. She now had possession of Adriane's car, and she says that she liked driving it because it made her feel close to her daughter. She said she didn't change the preset radio stations, she didn't take out the CD from the CD player, nothing. She kept everything as is and says that anytime she gets inside the car and turns on the radio, she feels happy. She feels like she's close to Adriane, and she knows that it's going to be a good day.
This car is Adriane's car, and I haven't even changed the preset radio buttons. So every time I get in this car and turn on the radio, I feel very close to Adriane. I feel that she's with me and that the day is going to be a good day.
Adriane's favorite song at the time of her death was She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. So anytime Adriane's mother listens to that, she just feels so much joy. Of course, Adriane and Leslie's friends were also going through a difficult time. Adriane's best friend Lily was actually supposed to get married to her boyfriend Eric, but a couple of weeks before the murders, she had called off the wedding. However, the death of her friend made her realize that life was too short, so she decided to plan the wedding and go through with it.
Eric and I both reevaluated what is important in life. We've been together almost 8 years now. It was time to go ahead and get married. Eric and I were originally planning to get married on November 1st, which is the day Adriane ended up dying. And if we had gone through with that wedding, it was planned in Hawaii. Adriane and Lauren would have been in Hawaii with us that week.
She even decided to invite Adriane's mother, Arlene, to attend the wedding and be there in memory of her friend. During this time, Lily and Arlene had grown a very close relationship. I mean, this was Adriane's mom and this was Adriane's best friend. So they're both grieving together and just trying to help each other get through this difficult time. So Arlene felt very happy that she was attending this wedding, and she even read certain scriptures from the Bible. She talked about her daughter Adriane, and she just felt happy that she was there representing her daughter. The wedding ceremony was absolutely wonderful, but at the same time, Leslie couldn't help but still be upset because her best friend's murderer was still out there. The killer was still on the loose, and she felt like her friend didn't have justice yet.
I've gotten pretty angry about what happened, that anybody could do this, but I'm almost a little afraid to have a face and a name to put the blame on, and all my grief, just hang it on this person. But it's not going to get easier because we have a face and a name.
Lily actually did an interview and she said that somebody must know something. Somebody had to have noticed their friend acting weird or with bruises on them or something. She just couldn't believe that the killer was still out there and that no one had suspected them.
Somebody out there knows something. Somebody would have had to notice a friend of theirs acting strange or, had bruises. It doesn't seem like somebody could just walk away from it and be fine.
Now, there was a $100,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest and conviction of the suspect who did this, and police were asking for the public's help in solving this. While police continued on with the investigation, Lauren was still trying to deal with this. She was forced to ask herself the tough questions, such as, do I know the killer, and did he intend to kill me too? Like, why am I the only survivor? She says that this entire situation turned her world upside down. She was so paranoid. She was looking around her at all times, wondering if this person was a killer or if that person was a killer. She even began to suspect of her own friends, of her neighbors, of her co-workers. I mean, she suspected of everybody. She started thinking about the people in her life and specifically about the people that smoked cigarettes. Again, these cigarettes were a big piece of evidence, so police were just asking her to remember if she knew someone that smoked. So she started thinking about everyone in her life, and that's when she remembered that when Adriane and her had first moved into their house, Adriane's best friend Lily and her husband Eric had come over to the house to help them move in and to celebrate. And she remembered that Eric was a smoker.
We didn't associate with any smokers. And then I stopped. I thought, Lily smokes. And so does her boyfriend at the time. They smoked. So I gave them Eric Koppel's name.
She told the homicide detectives about this, and to her surprise, Eric had never been interviewed. He had never once been spoken to. He had never been interviewed. They had never obtained his DNA. He was literally not on the police's radar whatsoever. The police had completely overlooked him, so once Lauren told them this information, they tried to call Eric to get him to come down to the station, but Eric would not pick up the phone. He would not call them back. I mean, he was pretty much just MIA. An entire month went by from when Lauren had told police about Eric, and they still had not been able to get in contact with him, which is just crazy. I mean, I don't understand where he was or why they couldn't find him, but of course, Lauren was feeling frustrated because they had been asking her to remember someone that fit this profile, and here he was, yet police weren't able to catch him.
I was fearful that it would just be forgotten about, I think, and become a cold case.
This is when police decided to release this information to the public and let them know about the cigarettes found at the crime scene.
It was finally decided through the department that we would go ahead and reveal the brand of cigarette that had been collected and sampled DNA the night of the homicide. A rare brand and one that had been introduced not long before the crime had occurred.
They had a press conference and they said that these cigarettes were specifically Camel Turkish Gold cigarettes. These cigarettes had only been on the market for a very short time and were rare. So police were asking the public to think about someone they knew that smoked this specific brand. They also revealed that the DNA found on the cigarettes was the same DNA found on the blood on the window. So the killer was definitely the one who smoked these cigarettes. Again, police were hoping that by revealing this information, someone would recognize a person that would fit this profile and help police find them. And they were right. 5 days later, police had finally made an arrest. A few days after the press conference, a man walked into the police station with his wife and his family and confessed to killing Adriane Insogna and Leslie Mazzara. He said the only reason he was turning himself in was because he felt so much pressure after police revealed that they had found the cigarettes. He knew that people in his life would recognize that he smoked that specific brand, and he just figured that it would be a matter of days before he was caught. So he decided to just get it over with and turn himself in. Now, the man that turned himself in was 26-year-old Eric Copple, the husband of Adriane's best friend. The news of this left everyone in shock, especially for Adriane's mother, Arlene. I mean, she had gone to this man's wedding, and it turns out that he was the one that murdered her beautiful daughter. She just couldn't believe it, and as I mentioned earlier, she had grown a very close relationship with Lily. So now she was questioning that friendship. I mean, did Lily know that her husband was the one who had done this, or was she also just as surprised as everyone else? I mean, how could Lily have gone nearly an entire year with this man and not suspected him of anything? She married this guy, and every single night she would lay down next to him without knowing that he was the one who killed her best friend. What's crazy is that she did that interview I talked about earlier, where she said that somebody must know something and must have realized that their friend was acting strange. So to police and a handful of other people, they find it hard to believe that Lily never suspected him. Also, when Lily was doing that interview, Eric was literally sitting in that room with her. He was sitting there listening to his wife talk about how upset and heartbroken she was over her friend's death and how the killer needed to be caught soon. All the while, he knows that he's the one who did this.
When Lily sat down with us nearly 2 years ago, not long after her wedding, what do you hope will happen here?
I hope they find him.
She said she couldn't imagine the killer would go unnoticed.
Somebody must have seen something. Somebody out there knows something. Somebody would have had to notice a friend of theirs acting strange.
What now seems chilling is the fact that Lily's husband, Eric, was sitting right there in the room with us during our interview.
It's important. It's important to find out who did this and to find out why. In some sick way, I want to know. I want to know how it happened. I mean, this was my friend. I want to know what happened to her.
Now, the police did come under scrutiny because of this. People were upset with them because Eric had been there the entire time. I mean, he was literally a part of Adriane's inner circle, and they never once interviewed him. He had literally been free for an entire year, and if it wasn't for Lauren telling them that he was a smoker, I honestly wonder if they would have ever put Eric on their radar. Now, the girls' families were in a way happy because an arrest had finally been made, and Leslie's family was relieved because now they knew that it wasn't Leslie's fault. And they're not saying that this is Adriane's fault, but again, for a long time, everyone was putting the blame on Leslie and saying that her dating life was the cause of this, that if she hadn't dated so many men, then this wouldn't have happened. So the family did feel a little sense of relief to know that this wasn't Leslie's fault. But even though they felt this, they also felt very confused and upset because Leslie didn't even know Eric. So why did he kill her? Why did he go after them? The families wanted to avoid a lengthy and public trial, so for a couple of months, the family's attorneys and Eric's attorneys were going back and forth trying to figure out an agreement that would work for both sides. In the end, they agreed that in exchange for a guilty plea to 2 counts of first-degree murder, special allegations for lying in wait, the use of a knife, and committing a crime with multiple victims, that Eric would not be given the death penalty. Eric agreed to spend the rest of his life behind bars. He waived his rights to seek an appeal, and he also agreed to never publicly talk about what happened that night. If he does break this rule, any money he makes from doing interviews or from any book deals would go directly towards the Calvary Home for Children in South Carolina and to the If Given a Chance Foundation, which are the 2 organizations chosen by the families of Leslie and Adriane. They really didn't want the trial to go public, and they felt a sense of relief to know that this would all be over soon. In January of 2007, Eric Copple was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He addressed the courtroom and apologized to Adriane and Leslie's families. He said, "I'm a broken man. I cannot fathom an explanation for my sinful deeds. The terrible agony inflicted upon a great number of people. Words evade me." He then went on to explain how he suffered from depression and alcohol, and how he had been suicidal since he was young. He mentioned that his grandfather had passed away before the murders, so he was upset about that. He was also upset because he wasn't able to hold down a job, and he also felt like his relationship with Lily was slipping away. So he says that a combination of all of these things filled him with rage and pushed him over the edge. During his sentencing, the mothers of Adriane and Leslie both made statements directly towards copple. Arlene started off by saying that her daughter never wore turtlenecks, but she had to be buried in one in order to cover the wounds Eric had left on her body. But yet the turtleneck wasn't enough to cover the extent of her wounds. She said, "You are the man who is so cruel as to invite me, the mother of the woman you murdered, to stand up for you at your wedding, to read scripture to you of love and death, and to bless your union. Throughout that weekend, you brought me into the heart of your family, knowing all the while it was you who destroyed mine."
Eric, you knew Adriane. She counted you among her friends. And you know me. And Eric, I know you. You are a man who violently stabbed to death the best friend of the woman you love. That is not love, Eric. You cannot love Lily and bring a knife into Adriane's home and stab her. And stab her again. And again. And again. And again. And again.
Just reading that broke my heart. I mean, this man is truly evil. He attended the vigils for both Leslie and Adriane. He attended Adriane's funeral. He then invited Adriane's mother to his own wedding and consoled her, all the while knowing that he was the one who had taken her life. It's just such a cruel thing to do, and my heart just truly breaks for Arlene. So Leslie's mother, Kathy, actually read a 13-page letter to Eric. Her statement was about 10 minutes long, and the entire time she was reading this to Eric, he never once made eye contact with her. He kept his head down and he just couldn't face her. The last person to make a statement towards Eric was his wife, Lily. She had been granted special permission by the court to speak to him, and she said, "Adriane and I were good friends. Arlene and I have grieved together. Our friendship bond was stressed when Eric confessed, but it was not broken. I know a gentler Eric." She then talked about how her husband's actions were because of his depression and struggles with alcohol. She said that these issues sent her husband into a violent explosion, but that he had paid his debt through Jesus Christ. Lily says that days before he confessed, she knew that something was bothering him. He had been acting weird, and she told him, "Eric, there is nothing in this world that you could do to make me love you less."
My heart goes out to both Arlene and Kathy, and to the rest of their families and friends. I wish with all my heart these events had been avoided. Eric, there is nothing in this world that you could do to make me love you less. We still bear the scars of losing Adriane and Leslie in such a horrifying way. Now we must also endure the pain of watching a much-loved and very admirable man spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Now, I don't know if she still felt that way in the moment, but that statement really shocked the families, especially Arlene. Again, she had a very close relationship with Lily, so she was surprised to hear Lily say this about the person that murdered her best friend and her daughter. She didn't expect Lily to say that, and she says that she doesn't really know how her relationship with Lily will be from now on. Now, the main thing that everyone wanted to know was why. Why did Eric do this? Why did he kill Leslie and Adriane? Well, this is what the police and the DA believe happened. Eric and Lily's relationship was not good. They were having a lot of issues, and Eric did have a problem with alcohol, which of course made Lily upset. So anytime they would go out or they would just be hanging out at the house, he would overconsume and then he would pass out. This would make Lily very angry, so she would often vent about this to her friend Adriane. And it's believed that maybe during one of these girl talks, Adriane had told Lily that Eric was not a good partner and that she should call off the wedding. Again, we don't know if this is 100% what happened, but police believe that maybe that's why Lily decided to call off the wedding. And in Eric's eyes, Adriane was a threat to the relationship. Maybe Eric blamed her for why the wedding was called off, and he just didn't like the relationship that Lily and Adriane had. He was somewhat jealous of it. He felt like Adriane was pulling her away from him, and he knew that he couldn't kill Lily, so instead he decided to kill her best friend out of revenge. So on Halloween night in 2004, Eric and Lily had attended a Halloween party, and Eric had drank a little bit too much, so he ended up fighting with Lily, and she decided to not sleep at the apartment with him. This made Eric very angry, so when he got home, he just passed out because of how much he had drank. When he woke up, he walked over to his garage, he grabbed the zip ties, and he also grabbed a knife. Then he got inside his car and drove over to the girl's house on Dorset Street. He parked his car, he walked up to the front of the house, and he smoked his cigarettes. Then he used his knife to pry open the downstairs window and he climbed through. When he was inside the house, he heard Lauren's dog growling, so he got scared and went directly upstairs. He entered Adriane's bedroom, tripped over a pile of clothes on the floor, and fell asleep. We don't really know how much time passed by, but he was woken up when Adriane turned on the light in her bedroom. This startled him, so he jumped on her bed and told her not to make any noise. And the timeline after this is a little bit blurry. We're not really sure how he started attacking both girls. He says that he closed his eyes and doesn't really remember the attack.
What we know happened between Adriane and the intruder, there was clearly a struggle.
She was a fighter. She was a scrappy girl. She would have fought very, very hard. And I hope she hurt him.
Once it was over, he ran down the stairs, climbed back out the window, and then drove away. He says that he threw the knife somewhere in the car, and then when he got home, he started a fire in his fire pit and burned all of his bloody clothes and shoes. He told police that he doesn't remember how he disposed of the knife, and he really offered no motive as to why he killed Leslie. It's just so heartbreaking that he did this because he thought this would fix his relationship with Lily. He thought that this would bring them closer together. It's just so upsetting and heartbreaking that these two beautiful young girls had to lose their life in such a brutal way, all because this man was nervous that his relationship was going to end. It's not fair that he got to go on and live his life as if nothing had happened. He got the chance to get married, and Adriane and Leslie will never get the chance to do that. Their lives were cut short all because Eric was scared of losing Lily. To this day, Eric Copple remains behind bars, and he will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. As for Lily, I read a couple of statements stating that she divorced Eric and that she is no longer with him. I don't know what she's up to now or if those statements are accurate, but honestly, I hope they are. Some people think that she knew the truth about what her husband had done, but other people think that she didn't know and that she was just as surprised as everyone else. I truly hope that she didn't know, and if that is the case, I hope that she has healed from this and has been able to get past it. I can't imagine finding out that your husband, the man that you love, was the one that killed your best friend, and that for an entire year he was just living a secret life. Again, if she really didn't know, I just hope that she has healed from this. As for the girl's family, Kathy says that Leslie's life speaks for itself. Her 26 years of life were full, rich, and productive. She was a gift. Kathy says, "I am so grateful that I got to be her mom and that she brightened our lives. I miss her a lot." Leslie had so many hopes and dreams. She had just moved to Napa Valley and was finding out her passion in life. She loved working at the winery and was so excited to further her career in the wine business and, just live a true and happy life. She was absolutely beautiful, and I'm so sorry that her life was cut short. I truly hope that she is resting in peace, and my thoughts and prayers go out to Leslie's family. Kathy hopes that one day she can confront Eric and question him about the murders. She even hopes that one day she will be able to forgive him. She says, of course it's hard to forgive someone that brutally murdered your daughter, but she hopes that one day she'll be able to get there. Kathy even met Eric's mother and embraced her. She says that Eric's mother was just as hurt and shocked as everyone else. Honestly, Kathy seems like just such an amazing and empathetic person. She could have been mad at Eric's mom, she could have taken her anger out on her and blamed her for what her son did, but she didn't. Instead, she embraced her and empathized with her sadness and heartbreak. As for Arlene, she still clings on to memories of her daughter and says that she still somewhat expects to see Adriane walking through the front door. My thoughts and prayers go out to Adriane and her family. She seemed like such a wonderful person, and again, it's just not fair that her life was cut too short. Now, as for Lauren, she eventually left Napa Valley and relocated somewhere else. I also truly hope that she has healed from this and has gotten the help that she needed. I hope that she doesn't have survivor's guilt, but I just can't imagine what she was going through. Imagine being the sole survivor of such a brutal attack. She is an incredibly brave person. I mean, she ran back inside that house to save her friends, even though she didn't know if it was 100% safe. I hope that she is living a good, happy, and healthy life now, and I wish her nothing but the best. She said that she's been able to cope with this by exercising and surrounding herself with a good group of people. Lauren misses Adriane and Leslie so much, and she said that the girls added something into her life and that she's never going to forget them. When asked why she thinks that Eric didn't kill her, she says, "I don't know. I just happened to have my door closed at night. That's it. That's the only thing." And with that, that is all the information I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for listening to Adriane and Leslie's story. There is a Forensic Files episode and a Snapped episode about this case if you guys want to watch it and hear more about it. You can hear from Adriane and Leslie's family, you can hear from the detectives involved in the case, and you can also hear from Lily. So I will link those episodes down below in case you guys want to check them out. I know that this case was a lot and it was really heavy, but please don't forget to check out the two organizations linked down below. It's the Calvary Home for Children in South Carolina and the If Given a Chance Foundation. So I will link those down below if you guys want to read more about those organizations, and if you would like to, you guys can also make a donation to them. That would be amazing because Leslie and Adriane really love those organizations, so it would be great to show them some support. I would love to know what you guys think about this down below, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you guys leave. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!